Uh-oh.
Okay, we'll start with this story that caught me by surprise. Beatriz Ferreira to defend her IBF title on an MVP show.
June 7th in Orlando, Florida.
Most valuable promotions announced on Wednesday. MVP Prospects 13 and MVP Championship Edition on Saturday, June 7th at the Caribe Royale Resort in Orlando, Florida, live globally on DAZN. MVP Prospects 13 will be headlined by a 10-round Women's World Championship fight at 135 as Brazil's IBF Lightweight World Champion Beatriz Ferreira, the Beast, defends her title for the second time against 28-year-old Buenos Aires, Argentina challenger Maria Inés Dinamita Ferreyra, 11-0 with 1 draw, 6 knockouts. In the co-main event, MVP's newest signee, two-time Brazilian Olympic Keno Marley, will make his highly anticipated pro debut over 4 rounds at 200 pounds in the cruiserweight division against Weslaco, Texas's undefeated Sean Sparks, 2-0 with 2 KOs. Also on the main card will be an 8-round, 135-pound lightweight fight between Brazilian national champion Luan Almeida versus Crescent City, Florida's Tony Aguilar.
So this is why I think the people at MVP decided to borrow Beatriz Ferreira for the show. You can see what the theme is. A lot of homegrown Brazilian talent on the show. Initially, I thought that she was the latest Matchroom fighter that they poached.
They signed
with both Alicia Baumgartner and Ellie Scottney migrating from Matchroom over to MVP. Initially, I thought that Beatriz had joined them, but a signing wasn't actually announced. They're just using her for this show, with Brazilian talent being the theme.
Matchroom's Beatriz the Beast Ferreira made her professional debut in Cleveland, Ohio back in 2022. Prior to turning pro, Ferreira's glittering amateur career saw her win lightweight gold at the 2019 AIBA Women's World Boxing Championships in Russia and silver in the lightweight category at the Tokyo 2020 Olympic Games, before returning to compete for Team Brazil at the 2024 Olympics in Paris, where she earned the bronze medal. The 31-year-old Ferreyra is an aggressive come-forward fighter who put on a thoroughly impressive display against the then-unbeaten Tana Cardozo in her pro debut in 2022, twice dropping her fellow Brazilian en route to a 4-round shutout decision.
Less than a month later, Ferreyra returned for her second pro fight, stopping the 7-2 Carice Brown inside 2 rounds on the undercard of Estrada vs. Chocolatito 3 in December of 2022. Ferreyra made her third outing as a professional in July of 2023 on the undercard of Dalton Smith versus Sam Maxwell in Sheffield, England, taking another big step up early in her career and delivering an electric decision win over Carla Ramos Zamora. Ferreyra followed the win with an 8th round stoppage of Destiny Jones on the undercard of Devin Haney versus Regis Prograis in December of 2023. In just her 5th fight, Ferreyra earned her first shot at world title honors against Yanina Lescano in April of last year. In Liverpool, England, Ferreyra dished out a severe, relentless beating, winning by technical decision and claiming the vacant IBF lightweight world title at 135.
Following the bout, Ferreyra turned her attention back to her Olympic aspirations, medaling in Paris before returning to the pro ranks in December of that same year to defend her IBF title and winning a dominant 10-round unanimous decision over France's Licia Budersa in Monte Carlo. She now will defend her title for the second time against Argentinian challenger Maria Inés Ferreyra.
In what is a battle of the Ferreyras.
I want to thank Matchroom and Most Valuable Promotions for this opportunity, and I am very excited to return to the United States to defend my world title, said Ferreyra. I am expecting a very tough challenge from my opponent. I know she is no joke and is coming to take my title, but these are the type of challenges I want. It's exciting times for women's boxing, and I want to be part of these big fights. I am ready for all the big names that people are talking about, and I will prove this on Saturday, June 7th.
Maria Inés Dinamita Ferreyra is a 28-year-old undefeated Argentine professional boxer from Tres Algarrobos,
Buenos Aires, currently living in Villa Maria, Cordoba. She made her professional debut in March of 2021. Following a strong start to her pro career, Ferreyra earned her first regional title shot in September of last year, contesting for the then-vacant South American lightweight title against Johan Paola Gonzalez and earning her first-round TKO win over Gonzalez to claim the title honors. She followed the showing with a title defense in her latest bout in December of last year, winning a unanimous decision against Lisbeth Crespo, now entering her first world title fight.
So this is just a quick run-out for Beatriz Ferreira. That's what it is. It's just a means to keep her busy that MVP has found use for her, and Matchroom will not stand in the way.
A productive relationship, because if MVP is willing to pay Beatriz a sizable purse to box on one of their shows to headline a main event for them, Matchroom still gets their cut because that's still their fighter at no expense to them, since this is an MVP show. At the same time, Beatriz benefits by not just staying busy, but boxing under the MVP banner that, as we all know, has a broadcast deal with both DAZN and Netflix.
They're very good at branding, they're very good at drawing attention to themselves, and Beatriz being over there adds to her exposure.
So it's all good. We're gonna take a closer look at Inés Ferreyra to see what exactly Beatriz is going to be dealing with, but on the face of it, I like Beatriz to win.
Beatriz, who has thoroughly impressed me from the moment I saw her pro debut, she is a serious fighter, serious business.
Why do you think Caroline Dubois is working so hard to avoid her? Caroline Dubois, who recently stated she would like to schedule a unification match over the summer months, but with all the other champions having bouts on schedule, that doesn't look to be happening. Terry Harper has a fight coming up, so does Stephanie Hahn, now Beatriz.
Maybe Carolyn does have a fight over the summer, but it's not looking like it's going to be a unification match. Perhaps it's something they can revisit in the fall or winter months, but so far, so good.
Oh yeah, that's a huge fight. I'm down for him to come over here and we could throw down. You know, he had a great performance even though he lost, and I see a lot of holes in his game that, you know, Chris didn't take advantage of. But at the end of the day, they're both warriors and they give a hell of a show. That was one of the best fights I've seen of all time. To be honest, that was crazy.
Conor Benn responded to that positive message and that door opening for a fight with Ryan Garcia by saying, "I'll be ringside to watch you get the job done on Saturday, then God willing, we can get it on later this year and pack a stadium out."
I do not expect to see Conor Benn fight Ryan Garcia anytime this calendar year, with talks looming for a Eubank Jr. rematch and Ryan being spoken for. Ryan's potential rematch with Devin Haney later on this year. This is not a fight that you can expect to see happen this one, but it still can happen, and it sends the right message to the next generation of fighters. Conor Benn's spirited loss did not hurt his stock, that in this new era, it's not all about the O. It's not all about the unbeaten record. It's really about entertaining a crowd, and in truth, it's always been about that. It's always been that way. The obsession with the unblemished record was really exclusive to the Mayweather era, where so much emphasis was placed on his O as he attempted to break Rocky Marciano's record. Floyd Mayweather did a fantastic job of using that as a marketing tool to promote himself, when in reality, Marciano's 49-0, if it was anything, was a heavyweight record. There had already been smaller fighters at smaller weights who went past 49-0 unbeaten.
That if all this was about was breaking his record, it had already been broken by other fighters before Floyd. Nevertheless, all this emphasis on the unbeaten, unblemished record really was exclusive to the Mayweather era, because in eras before it, you never saw that much emphasis placed on it.
And here and now, after the Mayweather era, it's like people are snapping out of it and remembering it's not all about being unbeaten, it's about entertaining a crowd.
That's what matters most of all, that not all losses are created equal. A spirited loss can actually raise your stock.
Doors might start to open, continue to open. They did for Danny Jacobs after his spirited loss to Gennady Golovkin.
We see here that a door opens for Conor Benn to perhaps one day face Ryan Garcia, even if it's not this year.
And I don't think it will be.
Not for me to say, but yeah, it was the biggest pay-per-view for a long time. And the rematch will be the biggest UK pay-per-view of all time.
Is a rematch bigger than Fury Joshua?
No. But it's right up there. Do you know what I mean? There will never be anything bigger than Fury Joshua. But the rematch with Benn Eubank is as close as anything could get. It's massive. And like, this is just the beginning of the story, I think. You know, like these guys are just made for each other. Maybe they should do 3 or 4.
News is encouraging as far as how did this fight perform at the box office with the paying public, the spectators in what is this spectator sport, and it appears to have done very well. In spite of it not being for a world title, you don't always need one.
But now you see what the problem is, that while the door is open for a Ryan Garcia fight, the door is also open for a Eubank rematch. The first one made a lot of money. Now that everybody knows what they're buying, the rematch might make even more.
And they can do more to spruce up the undercard, because while the main event really delivered, the undercard for the fight was underwhelming.
And the potentiality that perhaps Conor Benn wins the second fight, that would in effect leave the door open for a trilogy. Chris wins the first one, Conor wins the rematch, the third would be the tiebreaker.
Can Conor win the rematch is the question. The rules of engagement are said to have already been agreed to.
But Chris Eubank Jr.'s manager, Napper, has confirmed that the Eubank team wants a rematch with Conor Benn next. However, it is not set in stone that it will be at the same weight and rehydration clause as the first bout.
Terms are TBC because of things that I can't say, but they'll need to be negotiated because Chris has made it very clear this is the fight he wants.
Well, that's an issue because he signed to do it. But obviously, we've got to make sure that his his health is in check. But he signed a deal to do, the 2 fights, and we know the terms of that deal.
Believe it or not, Chris Eubank Jr. doesn't have as many options as Conor Benn, in spite of being the winner of the fight. There's only so many guys that get him the kind of money that he wants. He's not in it for belts.
So you can rule out guys like Yanni Beck and guys like Lara, Carlos Adames.
It's really just Conor and Canelo that can get Chris the kind of money that he's looking for, and Canelo is otherwise spoken for the rest of the year. He's going to fight William Skull this weekend. Then if he wins, he fights Terence Crawford, leaving Chris with only Conor.
Can make a lot of money with him.
The issue is you already agreed to the terms of engagement for a second fight, and now you wish to augment them. Now you wish to change them. How is Team Benn gonna feel about that?
For obvious reasons.
And now the story is the British Boxing Board of Control wishes to investigate what means and methods Chris Eubank Jr. used to get down to 160 pounds.
The British Boxing Board of Control that is a lot more strict and stringent than the commissions you see in America that are a lot more freewheeling. The BBBofC wants to know, how did Chris get there?
I'm going to say something now, and it won't get me into trouble, but the reality is, the reality is that British Boxing Board of Control want fighters to make weight in a way that is actually not possible. Like, it's just not common sense. I got fined many years ago because I said that my old man got in a sauna with Lee Purdy, right, when he was making weight. And they called me in and said, you said he was in, fighters can't use saunas to make weight. Like,
I remember about 3 years ago, ahead of what was supposed to be the John Real Casimiro versus Paul Butler WBO title fight, as soon as the BBBOC caught wind that John Real Casimiro used the sauna in the UK, they denied him his ability to box in the United Kingdom for having done so. The rules over there are a little different and a lot more stringent, and now they've got Chris Eubank Jr. in their crosshairs.
There has to be some kind of common sense and realism about how fighters make weight. The biggest mistake that the British Boxing Board of Control make is having a check weight for fighters in championship fights on the Wednesday of fight week, because they're failing to look at the reality of the situation. And this is what happens. On Wednesday of fight week, and this is what happens to international fighters in Riyadh because the board run the events. By the way, shout out to the British Boxing Board of Control. For me, the best commission in the world, right? Doesn't mean we can't talk about ways to improve. This is not a shot at the board. They make you weigh in on Wednesday a certain amount of weight over your championship weight, right? The board do not do enough research and do not speak to enough people in the weight making industry, right? And the nutritional industry and the science and industry of safely making weight. Because what is happening is the fighters are coming down on Wednesday to make that check weight, and then they are rehydrating after they've made that weight, and then they've got to rehydrate again. So, do you know what I mean? To make the weight on Friday. It's not a safe way to do it. And I get the thinking behind it, which is, yeah, but we can safely make sure that the fighters getting their weight down rather than them crashing it late. But by doing it this way, what you're doing is they're making weight on Wednesday, then they're making weight on Friday. The fighters aren't naturally coming down because the science will tell you that's actually, for some people, not the way that we do it.
I said it the day of the fight, after the fight was over, that Chris Eubank Jr. having won it, I find it difficult to believe that he's going to go into a rematch under the exact same circumstances as the first fight, given what he endured and what it took for him to get there.
Even if the terms were already agreed to.
They're going to want to change the rules of engagement for the rematch, even if they were already ironed out. Now this from the BBBOC, who are investigating Chris. How did he get to 160?
However he did it, something's got to change.
And now I wonder what exactly the British Boxing Board of Control's investigation will turn up, and whether or not they will consider overturning the decision based on what they find. Because they're strict over there, they're stringent, and they don't mess about. That's why the penalties are a lot harsher in the UK than they are in the US.
They're not impotent like the commissions out here, where out here you may get anywhere in between 12 to 6 months for testing positive for a banned substance. Over there, you're talking about anywhere in between 2 to 4 years.
Penalties are a lot harsher in the UK, and if they find that Chris Eubank Jr. broke any rules,
Violated any protocols, any provisions, what happens to the decision?
relevant factors ahead of a second fight.